Welcome to Cobra Kai Canada. I am your host, Alir, and today my special guest is Sean Kanan from the Karate Kid 3, Mike Barnes.
Hey, Lear, how are you?
Good, man. This is so surreal, and I cannot believe I am doing an interview with the legend.
Thank you.
Before we get started, Sean, there's one thing I got to get off my chest.
Okay.
And this is just me now. When you beat the living piss out of Daniel LaRusso in the Karate Kid 3 is when I knew I was a Mike Barnes Cobra Kai fan for life. It's like I just loved it. And that little mind trick he did on you, that little psychological thing
with the kata.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, technically you lost, but in my mind, you didn't lose. You were the better fighter, and that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
All right. I like where your head's at, man.
Yeah, man. And so now, Sean, like, you were born in Cleveland, Ohio, the Buckeye State, but you grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. So we know you on screen, but let's get to know you a little off screen. What was
I have to correct you. The Buckeye State. You're right, Ohio, and Pennsylvania's the Keystone State, right?
Keystone State, yeah.
Yes.
So what was your childhood upbringing like? Because not a lot of people really know what it was, your childhood upbringing like.
I grew up in a town called Newcastle, Pennsylvania, in western Pennsylvania.
Yep.
It was an interesting place to grow up, probably about 25,000 people. It was a predominantly blue-collar town. There were affluent suburbs where I was fortunate to be raised there, but about 5 miles further from where I lived, we had a whole Amish community. So it would be nothing to see, like a horse and buggy going by Amish people. It was, we saw it all the time. I went to public school until I was in 11th grade, and then in 11th and 12th grade, I went to a boarding school, to a prep school that was still in Pennsylvania, but I lived there. I had a good upbringing. I had a lot of, I had a lot of great experiences. I also had some tough experiences. As a young kid, I suffered a lot of bullying, which was actually the impetus for me to, get into martial arts, which wound up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. So, listen, I think like most people's childhood, you got some good, you got some not so good.
Absolutely.
You do the best you can to become the most fully formed and evolved human being that you can be under sometimes, difficult circumstances. Many people had a much more difficult upbringing than I did. So I am full of gratitude.
Fair enough. It's interesting you bring up bullying, as a lot of people find it hard. The Mike Barnes being bullied.
And I'm very involved with various anti-bullying campaigns, and
that's correct,
I go and I speak at schools a lot.
That's awesome.
And usually before I start speaking, I'll show the clip, the iconic clip of Mike Barnes terrorizing Daniel at the All Valley tournament.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, the kids will watch it and they love it. And especially now they love it even more because of Cobra Kai. And I say to them, would you guys believe that scary guy used to get bullied? And they can't believe it. And so it kind of creates, it creates a bridge for me to talk to him and connect to him. And, it's something I'm very passionate about.
Interesting. Now, Sean, what age did you get into martial arts?
I got into, when I'm really thinking back on it, I think I started taking a couple Aikido classes when I was really young, maybe like 12. And then I stopped. And then I set foot in a Shotokan dojo when I was about 15. And that's really where my martial arts training began.
Wow, interesting, because as I was telling you before we came on air, that my family has a history of boxing, and they put me in boxing. It's funny because I was put into boxing at the age of 12 or 13. My
Wow.
parents, my parents call me a late bloomer because it took me a while to really get into boxing, right? And I was one of those, like, I just wanted to play as a kid and goof around,
Yeah.
right? I didn't
Yeah.
take it as serious as they did.
Yeah.
And but yeah, like that's interesting because you at 12, 13 years old, did you compete in many events?
I competed in some, yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
I did. I competed in I competed in more than a few tournaments.
Awesome. That
None
is
as big as the All Valley.
the All Valley that you technically won, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So speaking of Karate Kid 3, tell me about your experience when you auditioned for Karate Kid 3 because and how you got your role, because this is a very, very interesting story.
So I'd come out to Los Angeles to pursue my career in acting in 1987. I was going to UCLA and finishing my political science degree. And there was a breakdown put out for the new bad guy in Karate Kid 3. They described him as a 17-year-old white Mike Tyson. And I'd never thought of myself as a 17-year-old white Mike Tyson. But the stunt double for Mr. Miyagi, for Pat Morita, is Sensei Fumio Demura, who was one of my martial arts teachers. And he told me, hey, look, they're going to, cast this new role. I know you want to be an actor. You should try and get an audition. And I wound up going to an open call, which for people that don't know what that is, basically anybody can show up, and anybody did show up, anybody and everybody. There were about 1,500 people. I think ultimately they saw about, I want to say they saw at least 5,000 people for the role.
Holy, that's bizarre.
And John Avildsen, who won the Academy Award for Rocky, was the director, and he plucked me out of the line and set me inside the sound stage. And I did a screen test with Ralph Macchio and thought I did pretty well. And found out a few days later that somebody else got the role.
Oh.
So, yeah, they actually cast somebody else before they cast me. And he worked for about a week, and it just wasn't working out. And I'm not sure why. And so they remembered me and brought me back. And the rest is history. Changed the course of my life.
Wow. Now that person, is it anybody we know, or was it just some?
No, all I know about him is his name is Daryl.
Daryl.
And I don't know whatever became of Daryl. Hopefully he found happiness and love and prosperity and all sorts of good things. He probably has a voodoo doll of me that he sticks pins in.
I would hope not. Yeah.
Remember what was it? Was it Billy Madison or whatever? Or, when Steve Buscemi is the guy that he used to abuse in school, and Steve Buscemi's got a kill list, and he's just about to kill. Because Adam Sandler apologizes, he goes, "Oh, okay, thanks," and he crosses him off the list.
That's right. He made that phone call to him or whatever.
Yeah,
and he apologized.
That was
and he scratched him off his list or something
and
like that.
Put lipstick on like a crazy son of a bitch.
Yeah, and that crazy background music that came on. I remember that.
Right.
That movie's classic, man. Oh my God. So a lot of people may not know this, Sean, but you had a very scary experience while filming Karate Kid 3 that landed you in the hospital and almost your deathbed.
Yeah, I talk about it extensively in my book, Way of the Cobra. We had been filming for about 2 weeks, and I was doing a stunt, had nothing to do with karate. And we broke for Christmas, and I was having some pretty significant pain in my left leg, which I attributed to all the martial arts I was doing. So I was taking a lot of aspirin. What had happened was I perforated my greater omentum, which sits on top of your intestine, and I was bleeding internally. So 1988, Christmas Day, I was fighting for my life in the emergency room of Humana Sunrise Hospital in Las Vegas. And they were telling me they weren't sure they could save my life.
Wow.
I had emergency surgery. I came to, had a 14-inch scar in my abdomen, which I still have. John Avildsen called me and basically told me you need to get back to work in, about 10 days, 2 weeks, or we're going to hire somebody else. And I had to will myself, out of the hospital, into rehab, train, work out, do everything I could to convince them that I could finish the film. They were originally going to get a stuntman to do all of my martial arts, which is a extremely undesirable choice filming a movie like that. But I was able to rehabilitate myself, and I wound up doing all of my own martial arts stunts in the film.
Wow, that's crazy because they gave you pretty much an ultimatum, eh? What was it, like 10 days come back or you're pretty much toasted, you're out of here. And correct me if I'm wrong, they wanted to give the role to Brandon Lee.
Brandon Lee, I think they were going to hire. It's funny. One of the things I talk about in my book is the necessity to have a really powerful why to motivate you. And in that moment, my why was that I had worked so hard to get the role, and now, I felt that it was so unjust that it would potentially be taken away from me. It fueled me. I mean, I was initially very angry, and the anger very quickly gave way to, kind of like cue the Rocky music. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I'm not, this isn't happening. And I did what I needed to do to get myself back in the film. And, it propelled me. That why was that, it was my role. No one was going to take it from me. And I was going to do whatever the hell I had to do to stay in the film.
Wow. Were you in any like pain or agony when you came back, or?
Yeah. I mean, I was in a lot of pain as I was going into surgery, because by that time, I had lost a tremendous amount of blood. And, my abdomen had started to become distended, and, there was a lot of blood inside. When I came back initially, I had staples up and down my stomach.
Oh my God.
And, I took the staples out. They took them out, but I also started picking at them. And, I didn't really have time to heal properly. I mean, I was doing sit-ups 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks after, going to surgery, and probably, a week after getting the staples out.
Wow.
And that's what it had to be.
Wow.
There was no two ways about it. Otherwise I wasn't going to be able to come back. I'd lost a tremendous amount of weight. I was down to like 155, which for me is super. Like right now I'm probably 205. But back when I was that age, I was probably about 185, 190.
Okay.
So, I mean, for me to be at 155, I was really, really thin. I mean, I saw some pictures of myself, especially because I had that, that short, spiky hair. There were some shots where I looked like a prisoner of war sometimes.
Wow, man. Like, honestly, I'm speechless. Just the fact that they told you, you better get your ass back here.
It was a really good lesson. There's some wonderful people in Hollywood, and there's some real shits. And I learned very quickly that it's called show business, not show friends. And it's not that I'm jaded, and it's not that I'm cynical, but this was a major, major, big budget film.
I understand.
And at that point, I was an asset that had quickly become a problem. And they needed to fix the problem. They were not concerned with, Sean Kanan, this, 21-year-old kid who was fighting for his life. They were concerned largely about, not having millions of dollars tank.
Yeah, it's unfortunate they would put money first instead of a human being, and that's the reality of that. You know what I mean?
Welcome to Hollywood, kid.
Yeah, I haven't experienced that, but like I can imagine from what you're telling me. It's crazy.
What's funny though, I'll tell you that, and again, I keep referencing my book, but I talk about in the book that human beings rarely understand the 30,000 foot view of what's going on. And many, many times things that we initially think are negative or bad turn out to be some of the biggest gifts that we've ever received.
Right.
And, I wouldn't wish that experience on my worst enemy, but I wouldn't have traded it either, because, it's in those moments of crisis that I believe our characters revealed. And it allowed me at a very young age to see a part of my character maybe that I didn't previously know existed. You know, it kind of revealed a warrior spirit, a fighter.
Yes.
And I remember when I was in the emergency room, you know, I started getting cold and I started getting tired, and I knew I could just go to sleep. But I also knew if I did that, I wasn't going to wake up.
Wow.
And I really had to physically and mentally will myself to make it out of there alive. And it was very scary.
Wow. That's bizarre. You know, like all I can say is God must have loved you, and he must have been a huge Mike Barnes fan too.
I think he had some plans for me.
He definitely did, man. Wow. But you know, Sean, I'm glad everything, you know, went okay. And
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that.
And health is number one, as I say, and it
Health
always
and family,
will.
Right?
It always will be. Yeah. Like I wouldn't, you know what I mean? If you don't have health, you don't have anything. That's just the way I see it.
You don't. That's true.
Wow. That's crazy. That is, that's Hollywood for you. Anyone that's tuning in. Wow. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, next question is there really isn't much of a backstory, you know, to the Mike Barnes character, except for the fact that we know you were featured in a magazine labeled as Karate's Bad Boy, who won numerous tournaments. Now, can you give us like any like insight of like what you may know is like anything about Mike Barnes? Because there's really nothing out there. I've tried searching.
You know, first of all, a couple things. I mean, he was 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes down to LA. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes me question, you know, what kind of parental supervision he had.
Mm-hmm.
He was a national champion.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, the thing that's interesting about Mike Barnes, I always find, if you remember the scene where I come in and meet Terry Silver.
Yep.
And he's, first of all, he's in his bathtub, which is a little strange for a grown man to be meeting a young boy in the bathtub. But that's where's Chris Hansen when you need him, right? But
he was coked out anyways,
right? But but you know, Mike was able to be extremely charming and you know, almost soft spoken for a little while, and which is obviously such a, you know, dichotomy to where the character went. Mm-hmm. So it leads me to believe that one of two things, either there was a good part of him somewhere deep down, or he was a legitimate psychopath who was able to manipulate people emotionally. And I'm not sure which. I'd like to think that, you know, he was 17, he was misguided, and that, you know, that there was the opportunity for him to turn things around, you know, in the subsequent decades. We shall see.
Right. You know, it's okay. I'm gonna have a little fun with this one now, because there's very little to tell about like Mike Barnes. So technically speaking, like the producers, the editors, they're pretty much in charge of like creating a backstory for like we're talking hypothetically now for Mike Barnes, right? And since I'm in charge of that, now my question to you is, do you, Sean Kanan, have a say on your character? Say for example, you want to be like, you know what, Mike Barnes, I want him to be from Canada, just because, you know, I'm just going to throw out Canada. Well, technically, maybe you could be, because in Karate Kid 3, you thanked Terry Silver for bringing you down here. So
right,
yeah.
Well, they didn't say he was from Northern California though. So
did
I
they
always
really?
thought he was like from Oakland or somewhere like that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. No, I had no say in anything really on that film, with the exception of, that's not true. I had a couple says. It was my idea to get my hair cut like that because I had just seen Rocky IV and thought Dolph Lundgren looked like such a badass. I thought that was kind of cool. So,
well, he was a badass.
It was not my say-so to wear the gray cargo pants that they stuck me in with the multi-patterned red and black shirt that looked like, you know, like I don't know. I don't even know what was going on with those clothes.
Right.
But, you know, they did give me a lot of latitude at the final tournament scene to ad lib. And so, you know, I would say a good 95% of all that dialogue was ad lib that I was able to come up with. So that was great. You know, now as a guy that's 35 years past that film, and I've worked a considerable amount. When I come onto a film or something like that, I tend to have a lot more ability to give input.
Okay.
So that's kind of a blessing.
Okay.
But you know, at that point in time, as a young actor, I needed them to show me the way and discipline me and give me parameters because, you know, I was a very, very young green actor on the set of you know, a big film.
Yeah.
And I needed to, you know, shut my mouth and open my ears and learn. And that's what I needed to do.
Interesting. You know, because like I was thinking, I'm just speaking hypothetically, like if Mike Barnes was to return in like a Cobra Kai series and stuff like that, right? Just because, like I said, like
I mean, not Cobra Kai, but like a Cobra Kai series.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know what I mean, like hypothetically, and we're just speaking hypothetically and something. So like it's because like I'm thinking because really we don't know much about Mike Barnes, right? And everybody wants a backstory. You know, they gave one to like Sensei Kreese and all the whole Vietnam War and stuff like that. So I was just thinking like it's funny because you bring up like Rocky IV, like Dolph Lundgren he's actually a Swede playing as a Soviet. And, you know, that was pretty cool. Like especially when people play like a villain from another country, because like, to me, that's pretty badass. They always like kill the roles, you know what I mean? And I'll give you another example, but he wasn't a bad guy. It was like, as a kid, I used to think Jean-Claude Van Damme was Canadian because the movie Nowhere to Run, Death Warrant, he played as a Canadian. And that time we didn't have internet and stuff. And we're just like, oh, and he speaks French. This guy's Canadian. This guy's badass, man. We used to like, you know, take credit for that. So I always thought like if Mike Barnes, if you do have a say in it, dude, you'd have like an entire backing of a country. Like that would be badass is what I'm trying to say, man. Like,
right.
That's why I'm asking you, like, do you have a say in that? Would you like, you know, commit to that?
I didn't. No, I do remember that they said he came from Northern California though. So
okay.
Unfortunately, as much as I would love to be claimed by the good people of Canada, I think unfortunately I'm going to have to deal with a much smaller geography and demographic, the good people of Oakland, California.
Yeah, I tried. I tried, but unsuccessful attempt. But you never know.
Yes.
Right? Because he could have just immigrated and lived there. Because
maybe he's got French Canadian blood in him. Who knows?
You never know. Because listen, they got Mr. Miyagi from Japan. They got Carmen, who plays Miguel's mom from Ecuador. Hey, why not? Let's get another one. You know what I mean?
Make multinational.
There we go, man. We want some claim, man. Put Canada on the map. John, Josh, and Hayden, if you guys are listening, let's do this, man. But here's another interesting thing I kind of want to know if you can like clarify for me. Terry Silver hired you to beat Daniel at the All Valley and promised you 50% ownership of the dojos. But was it 100% predicated on winning?
It's an excellent question.
Yeah.
That is an excellent question.
Yeah. I'm dying to
remember, Mike did say, so if I beat this LaRusso kid in the All Valley tournament, I get, and I think Terry, what did he offer him? 20% or some bullshit like that?
Like it was a low number,
Mike was
25.
Like, I don't think so. Now, and again, Mike, not the smartest, tool in the shed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't ask for 51%. He asked for 50%.
50.
So even if he won, he's not going to have controlling interest, I mean, we're talking about a guy that got baffled by a kata. So I don't know.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I always wondered that because technically, like you did have to fill up.
I think he did have to win.
Right. Okay. But was it actually predicated on it? Because didn't you have to like fill up some like forms, like I don't know, like an agreement of some sort or something?
Well,
like that?
I think there was a contract.
That's what I mean. So that's why I'm asking.
Mike said, and I get that in writing.
Yeah, because Mike wasn't, he was a smart guy. He
was smart for 17.
Well,
I mean, he definitely was smart for 17, I guess.
Well, but at that age, he was a lone wolf. He was hungry.
Listen, one could make the argument that he has a legitimate
interesting
claim to 50% of the Cobra Kai dojos. That would be interesting.
Yes, it would. Okay. Very, very interesting. Let's move on to the next question here. Let me see where I got it. I think this one is. Oh, so what I wanted to know is when season 1 came out of Cobra Kai, and this was like on YouTube Red, and I'm just speaking season 1, specifically season 1.
Okay.
What was your first thoughts? Did you ever thought we'd be going into season 5? Honest like thoughts on that.
Well, I have to tell you, after I saw the first season and what a phenomenal job everyone did, Hayden, Josh, and John, coming up with a brilliant idea to turn the canon history on its head and put forth the supposition that Daniel was the bully and Johnny was the one who was bullied, and then that brilliant montage that really illustrated it. And just seeing how and people throw the word brilliant around a lot, but I'm going to be honest. I mean, Billy and Ralph have done a brilliant job with this, and I think a lot of people didn't love Daniel in the movies. It's not that they didn't love him. They rooted for the bad guys because the bad guys were a lot of fun. I think now in Cobra Kai, we see a mature Daniel who is no longer a boy, he's a man. And as a man with a family, with a business, he's not a morally perfect human being like any of us. He's got, flaws and foibles. And, you thought Johnny was the golden boy in high school, and you learned that he had a shit upbringing. He lived in a fancy house in Encino, but it was because his mom, married this really creepy old guy. And, now Johnny's like a down on his luck booze hound. And, listen, it's like my uncle always says, things aren't always what they seem. Skim milk masquerades as cream. Things are not always how they appear. And I thought that was really interesting to see these two guys in very different realities than you might assume they would grow into as they got older. You would have assumed Johnny would have become, a successful whatever, upper crusty kind of guy. And, Ralph was a very, Daniel was a very blue collar kid from, I think it was Newark.
Newark.
Here he is, a very successful businessman in the Valley, probably Sherman Oaks, Van Nuys or something like that. But so to answer your question, once I watched the first season and I saw how well it was done, I knew they were off to the races. It's been a major success globally, and people just can't get enough of it, and I can't get enough as a fan. And good job by the big three, and I hope it keeps continuing. And people want it to go like 10, 12 seasons, and there's even a rumor of like spin-offs, and like it's gone crazy. It's crazy. So in season 4, last episode, Terry Silver says to Kreese, "I'm sure I can dig up an old friend or two to help out with Cobra Kai while you deal with your legal problems." I want your thoughts on that. And before you answer, I just want to say, like, the big three are smart, so they're not going to make it too predictable. And even though like your name is thrown around constantly, people tend to forget that there's Dennis, Snake possibilities, and I want to throw this out there. Terry Silver could just throw in a Vietnam War vet that you may not even heard of. It could be a new character. So I'm just throwing these possibilities out there. Those are all valid speculations.
Yeah.
I always marvel that people think that, Terry would have had anything to do with Mike Barnes after he didn't achieve what he was brought down to achieve.
It's too predictable.
I think in my guess, Terry would have kicked that kid to the curb, the minute that the All Valley was over. Yeah. But you never know. Maybe that's
right. Yeah, we don't know. Yeah.
Maybe Mike runs a television repair store, that Johnny works for. Maybe he lives in Mexico. Maybe he's an anger management counselor. Who knows?
Maybe he's up here in Canada.
That's right. Doing some ice fishing, eh?
There you go. Sled dogs and the whole deal. Yeah,
That's right. He's got a couple huskies.
there we go. And yeah, two things I actually wanted to know. Question number one is when you guys the dojo in Karate Kid 1, is that the same dojo they filmed in Karate Kid 3? The Cobra Kai dojo?
So for Karate Kid 3, they built a set that was the dojo that was on Lancashire
Oh, okay. So
Boulevard.
it wasn't okay.
But God, I'm really trying to remember.
Yeah,
I don't think we filmed there. They built one. I think that's where we did everything.
Like, okay, like a replica. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, like I wasn't too sure of that. And one thing I always wanted to know is were you able to keep your gi from Karate Kid 3? Did you keep it?
Oh boy, that's kind of a sore subject. Yes, I was able to keep it, but 35 years ago, I was not quite the wise sage that you see before you. And I don't remember who, but some young kid asked me for it.
No.
Sure. And I gave it to him.
You know, you got good heart.
So, you know, I made some kid happy, you know.
Yo,
but,
did you ever?
It would have been something to own the Mike Barnes.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, oh man. I just hope he didn't sell it on eBay or anything. Oh my God, that's crazy, man. But that's really generous of you. You're a genuine person for that, man. And I'll give you
either
credit.
that or an idiot. I can't figure out which.
No, definitely not. Definitely not that. And you know, one thing I wanted to talk about now is I want to talk about your book, Way of the Cobra. I own a copy of it and I read it. I found it motivational and strategic. Yeah, I felt like every chapter I read, I was going from like a white belt, started off from a white belt that eventually leads to like a black belt.
Mm-hmm.
So for people that don't know about it, can you like tell them about your book?
Yes, this is my book, Way of the Cobra.
There it is.
Available at wayofthecobra.com. And so in the book, I'm your sensei, you're in my dojo, and I'm teaching you the way of the Cobra. And Cobra is an acronym formed from the words character, optimization, balance, respect, and abundance. These are the strategies and the philosophy that I've used and I live by to, you know, achieve some of the things that I've achieved in my life. Mm-hmm. I started writing the book at a time when I was experiencing a lot of challenges. I was about 50 years old. I had some pretty significant success in my life. I had some pretty big failures. Mm-hmm. And I was looking in the mirror going, okay, what's chapter 2 here? What's the next act? And I was about 35 pounds overweight. I was unemployed. I had no work on the horizon. I had started to become very complacent and lazy and, you know, was wrestling with some old demons that had come back to visit. And I decided, you know what, I got 2 ways I can go here. You know, I can go off the cliff or I can get back on the path. And so I started doing some things very differently and very quickly. I started having some extraordinary results. In that 1 year, when I began to turn things around, I lost 35 pounds. I co-authored a book, which became an Amazon new release bestseller, my second book, Success Factor X, and eventually got a show that I created on Amazon Prime, and we won an Emmy for it last year.
Studio City.
You know, I don't thank you. Yes, Studio City. And I don't say all that stuff to impress people. I say it to impress upon you what is possible. And so I decided that I was going to take all of this information based upon all these mistakes that I'd made and structure it in a book so that I could hopefully act as a mentor, act as a sensei, if you will, and teach people how to unleash their inner badass. That's the tagline of the book, unleash your inner badass. And everyone's got one. And, you know, how to become a Cobra. And a Cobra, as I said, is that acronym. And it's, you know, it's living your best life. And it's, you know, acting with character and integrity, because character is everything. You know, character completely defines what kind of life you're going to live. And, you know, character is that thing that it's how you act when no one's looking. It's how you behave when, the lights of fame and success are not shining on you and the crowd isn't cheering. It's when it's just you and yourself, and you got to do the hard work. Do you show up, or do you, lurk in the shadows? And,
Yeah.
it's been getting an amazing response. We've actually sold out of the entire first run of the book, and
Amazing.
we're waiting on new books to arrive. And on or about March 1st, the ebook is coming out, and I'm so excited because a
Awesome.
lot of people haven't been able to get the book because, in Australia, for instance, the U.S. Post Office isn't delivering there now, and now with the ebook, it'll be much less expensive because there's no shipping, and it can ship through. I mean, it can be purchased and sent throughout the world, and it's going to also come out on some of the larger platforms like Kindle and Barnes and Noble, and it's going to give a much greater. It's going to be an expanded opportunity for everybody to get it, and I really believe with all my heart that the information in the book is catalytic. It has the ability to change people's lives. It changed my life, and I always say, before you think that I'm living in a hut on top of some mountain in Kathmandu meditating, I've made every mistake in the book. That's why I have these answers, and I just want to share.
Yeah, it's a great book. Like I said, I've read it, and it does ship to most countries. And you did answer it, except Australia, right? Because of like American Postal, something like that. I don't know. Like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Australia is not currently accepting mail from the U.S., but a lot of people in Australia have already purchased the book. But now, the ebook's going to allow everybody to get it. And I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal book, and I highly, highly suggest it. Yeah, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but last question is: I just recently did an interview with Daryl Vidal.
I know, I love Daryl.
Yeah, and great guy. I had a blast talking to him, as I am with you. And yeah, interesting. He brought up that you guys train together, Filipino stick fighting. Tell me a little about that experience, because
that's amazing. Daryl is a 10th degree black belt in
Grandmaster
Kenpo. He is a Filipino stick and knife fighting master, and he was gracious enough to train me. And it's learning something that is it's very different than a lot of the other martial arts experiences that I've had. Really interesting. The one thing that you certainly learn very quickly is that you never want to get in a knife fight with anybody, let alone somebody who is trained to use a knife. But I consider myself very fortunate to have trained with somebody that's at Daryl's level. And, he's a wonderful teacher.
Yeah, it's funny because like when I finished talking to him, he invited me to come down there. He said it would be something just because of my boxing background, and I think he was like focused on the hand-eye coordination. He said I would totally love it. So when things settle down, hopefully with the pandemic, I'm definitely
that would be great.
Down.
Well, if that happens, Daryl's about an hour and a half away from me, but I would drive over and meet you guys and train.
Yes, that would be a dream come true, man. Yeah. Oh man, dude, I would like totally lose my mind. Oh man, but this is like, honestly, this right here is like probably the greatest day of my life right now. This is awesome.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. You're a very easy guy to talk to. It's just kind of like shooting the shit with one of my buddies. So I appreciate that. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to jump because I have another one of these I have to do. But I really would love to encourage everybody to please go to wayofthecobra.com, pick up a copy. The information in the book really has the ability to cause a positive paradigm shift in your life. Wayofthecobra.com, and please follow me on Instagram at Sean.Kanan and keep up with all the stuff that I'm doing. And all I can say to all the people who ask me daily if I'm going to be on Cobra Kai is keep the faith, and you got to keep watching.
That's right. That's what I said. No, I don't want spoilers. Listen, I'm willing to wait. Mike Barnes comes, I'm going streaking. So
we shall see. But anyway. All right, brother. Listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I want to wish you all the best. And let me know when this comes out so I can help you promote it. And thanks to all your viewers. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch.
Absolutely. Now we will be providing a link down below with Way of the Cobra and your Instagram. And I
Thanks,
want
brother.
everybody that's tuning in, thank you and good night.